Welcome everyone to Making Everyday Moments in the Classroom Fun and Engaging with Science-Based Tools and Resources for Early Childhood Educators. My name is Patience Hill and I am the Community Outreach Project Manager here at Child Care Aware of America, and I will be presenting today with Candy Novak, and I'll let Candy introduce herself.
Hello everyone, my name is Candy and I'm the Technical Assistance Specialist with Child Care Aware of America, and I work on the Vroom Partnership Initiative with patients.
Thank you, Candy. We are very excited to share some Vroom resources with you for your classroom, and we just ask that you please jot down any questions that you may have throughout this presentation, and you'll have time to ask them towards the end. So in today's webinar, we will help you increase your knowledge on how the latest science on early brain development can enhance the interactions and learning in your classroom. And we'll help you identify opportunities and strategies to embed Vroom's resources and tools into your everyday routines and interactions with children in the classroom. We will also help you introduce ways to integrate Vroom's messages, tools, and resources into communications and conversations with families, and also help you speak to your administrators and directors about the validity of bringing the latest brain science to your classroom. So Candy will talk to us more about Vroom.
Thank you, Patience. Before we do that, I think we're going to have a poll now. And when you see it on your screen, the question is going to be, who has heard of Vroom before this webinar series? So we're going to give you a moment to answer that. The poll is open. So please let us know if you have heard of Vroom before this webinar series.
All right, let's share those poll results.
All right. So it looks like quite a few have heard of Vroom before this webinar, and hopefully some of you have explored the Vroom website in the past, or maybe you've been to or have participated in some of the previous webinars as well. Okay, so let's talk about what is Vroom. We're going to go over some things briefly. And Vroom empowers parents and caregivers to play a proactive role in their children's early brain development by turning shared everyday moments into brain-building moments. So Vroom really does take those everyday routines that we have with children, those day-to-day moments, and gives us tools and resources and prompts to turn those everyday moments into brain-building moments with children. And most of all, Vroom is a movement. It's not just a message. It's really a shift in the way we think about how children's brains are developing and how we can support our children's developing brains. So I'm going to share with you some of the main values of Vroom. Vroom is based on the values that of being positive and empowering. So the message of Vroom is very non-judgmental and just reminds parents in a simple way that they already have what it takes to be brain builders. Vroom also aims for attainability and accessibility. Vroom tips and materials, they are flexible, they're adaptable, and they really meet the unique needs of diverse families and communities as well. So Vroom is free for both parents, communities, early childhood professionals, anyone that is caring for children. And what's nice is these materials are also print ready at the Vroom website. Vroom leads with the science. So Vroom is grounded in research and it's presented in a way that's very easy to understand. It's taking the science and research out of the lab and putting it in words in ways that's easy for families to understand what's happening in their children's developing brain. It explains not just what to do, but why, and that why really matters. And the last one is meeting parents where they are. Vroom is very achievable within the reality of parents' everyday lives, and it doesn't require extra time or money. So children are born with tremendous potential, and science is at the heart of Vroom. So there's leaders in neuroscience, psychology, behavioral economics, parenting, and early childhood development that make up the brain trust of Vroom. So babies are born to learn, and caregivers already have what it takes to help them. So rather than telling caregivers what they should do, Vroom has decided to focus on what providers and caregivers are already doing right. The goal of Vroom is to try to spark moments of joy and interactions as opportunities for learning, because small changes using everyday moments like meal time or diaper changing time or nap time in intentional ways really encourages quality interactions. So behind every Vroom tip, there's brain science. And both Vroom and Mine in the Making have come together and partnered together and are built on 3 core scientific principles, as you can see on this slide. And those 3 principles are positive adult-child relationships, back and forth interaction, and also life skills that promote executive function. So now we're going to get into about those brain building tips and things that you can do during everyday moments in the classroom. So here's something that's called the Brain Building Basics. And this encourages caregivers to build their child's brain by making eye contact, chatting from birth on, stretching out moments, making each moment bigger than the next, and stretching out these moments with follow-up comments or asking questions. So these 5 actions, when a caregiver does this with a child, will help build the child's brain. This gives you an example of what a Vroom tip looks like. So Vroom tips really expand on the brain building basics that you just saw. There is a collection over 1,000 Vroom tips, and this is really the cornerstone of the free Vroom tools and resources that are available. Each tip promotes brain development, and it's for children ages 0 to 5, and it really supports developing language, early literacy skills, early math skills, and those executive function skills, those important essential life skills. The science behind the tips come directly from Mind in the Making as well as other scientific advisors. So each tip is written to be age appropriate and does not require a lot of time or any money to complete it. Most importantly, the tips are meant to be fun and joyful and turn something that might be mundane and ordinary into a positive moment of interaction. So as you know, children learn best when they're having fun. So as you see with the tips called Home Museum, I'm just going to share it with you to give you an idea how these tips are written. So for Home Museum, it says, invite your child to find some special things and put them out like a museum or a store. Have them lead you through their collection. Ask them to share with you why the items are meaningful. Take turns choosing your favorite things to share with each other. So for each tip, they'll give you a tip of something that you can do with a child, and then you'll see on the right-hand side, they also give you that brainy background. So it's giving you the why behind the tip. So for this particular one, for home museum, or it could be a museum in your classroom, it says, in this activity, your child is practicing important communication skills. Thinking about what to say and how to say it uses memory too. When you listen and share their words, feelings, and actions, you're also building a safe place for learning. So hopefully after hearing that tip and seeing it, you can see how the brain building basics are embedded into the Vroom tips. So Vroom tips really help caregivers turn everyday routines into brain building moments with children, whether it's in the home or in your classroom. So as I mentioned just a moment ago, Mind in the Making and Vroom have come together, and they have complementary offerings responding to the national landscape of early learning. Both of these early learning programs are asset-based, and they start with relationships, those relationships between caregivers and the lives of children. So I'm going to share with you some more examples of Vroom tips, but I'm going to show you how it relates and connects to the essential life skills that have been recognized by Mind in the Making. So here's one example that's called Beat and Repeat. So that's the Vroom tip, and it has been paired with the essential life skill of focus and self-control. And in the classroom, I know that that is something that teachers are really working on with children to help them develop those higher level skills of focus and self-control. And this tip could really support that development of that life skill. So beat and repeat, as it's called, it says play, beat and repeat anywhere. Create beat with 2 laps or 2 claps. Can your child copy it? Repeat until they get it. Have them create their own beat with 2 claps. Anytime someone misses, try again. Then make it 3 beats. How many beats can you get to? 4, 5, 6? From doing this tip with children, children will develop self-control as they copy patterns or create their own. If they make a mistake, all the better. They learn that mistakes are a necessary part of learning, a good lesson no matter how old you are. So once again, you can probably see that connection between this type of Vroom tip and this essential life skill of learning focus and self-control, all done through play and interaction. So I'm not going to read through the rest of these tips, but I'm just going to mention them briefly so that you can see the connection between the Vroom tip and how it would reinforce the learning and development of some essential life skills. For example, this one is called Category Convos, and it's really supports perspective taking. Then the tip called Sing Song Voice really supports communicating. And for the essential life skill called Making Connections, so developing relationships and knowing how to interact, Category Convos is a good one for that as well. And then we have critical thinking. So as you know, critical thinking is an essential life skill as we get into adulthood. And so starting that very early, even at the age of 1 and 2, which would be a suggested age for this tip, is called Watch and Learn. So very early on in a child's development, this is a type of interaction that we can have to kind of start them with this critical thinking process. And then taking on challenges. So, giving children the opportunity to try things and become persistent with things. So this particular tip is called new timers, and it's something that you can do outdoors. You could even translate it to an indoor activity, and this will help children take on challenges so that they know how to kind of learn how to manage some stress and some challenges that they may have. And then we also have the essential life skill of self-directed and engaged learning. And Daily Discovers is a Vroom tip that has been paired with this to help really encourage children to be engaged in their learning and to become lifelong learners. So those are just some quick examples of the many Vroom tips that are available, but we just wanted to show you how Vroom tips can really support those life skills that we want children to develop early on in their lives. So now I'm going to take you on a journey about accessing the Vroom Tip Cards. So there is a way that you can access Vroom tips that would be more in a hard copy format, paper format, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about that. So the Vroom tips that are available more in that paper format that might be nice for you to print off and have in your classroom. It is free to you to access the website to print those off. But these Vroom tips are also designed to promote those 3 key scientific principles that I mentioned earlier. So each tip is, it encourages positive interactions, so positive relationships, that back and forth interaction with the child, and also promoting those life skills that we've been talking about. So, and also just remember that each of the tips really correspond to each of the 5 brain building basics that we mentioned earlier as well. So on each of the tips, there's suggested age ranges just for greater developmental accuracy, but they are flexible. And each tip is meant to be fun and actionable to help engage with children. So the Vroom Tip Categories are available at Vroom's website, and you can visit the website at www.vroom.org to access these tips. And you see a screenshot of the Vroom tips, what it would look like when you get on the website, and you can see different age ranges. And when you click on those, you will be able to print them out as a PDF if you would like, so that you can have a hard copy of the tips. There are different categories, such as bedtime math is a category, literacy, there's science, communicating, listening, self-control, working with others, on the go. Those are some categories available of Vroom tips, and there are more than what I just mentioned. So I encourage you to go visit the vroom.org website to access those tips and look at them. And when you go to the vroom.org website, you'll see a For Professionals tab, and you can click on that, and then it'll take you to tools and resources so that you can look at the different materials available from Vroom. Here's an example of one of the content areas that I mentioned when it comes to Vroom tips. So they've taken some of their Vroom tips that are related to literacy, and they put them all together into one package so that teachers like yourselves can print out the Vroom tips that are connected to literacy. So this is what that would be what you would see on the Vroom website. And also we wanted to let you know that everything, Vroom's materials and resources are available in English and Spanish. However, the downloadable tips on vroom.org that you just saw, those are also available in the languages that you see on your screen. So if you're working with populations that speak these languages, this would be a nice way to support those families and engage with those families in your programs. And just to let you know, Vroom is also working on translating their tips into some other languages as well. They have not been released yet, but we anticipate that in the near future.
Thank you, Candy. So now we'll transition into the digital brain building resources. And so some of you might be wondering, after seeing all those wonderful tips, how can you get these tips shared daily in your classroom? So we have another poll here, and we want to know, what technology do you have access to in your classroom? So there are several mentioned. We have cell phones, smartphone, tablet, your iPad, your computer, Alexa device or Echo, or none. So if you have multiple, just choose which one that you use commonly in your classroom. All right, so we can share the responses. So it looks like most of you all have access to a tablet or an iPad in your classroom. Then next would be either a cell phone, a computer, or no access to technology at all. So thank you for sharing. So what's great about that is, as Katie mentioned, you can go on vroom.org and actually print the tips and have them ready for your classroom. But if you want, you can also share these tips through digital resources. So the Vroom app is accessible through a smartphone app, through an app on your tablet or your iPad, and also now they have an app on the website. So there are several ways that you can access these Vroom tips. There's over 1,000 tips in the app, and it's free, so that's what's really great about it. You don't have to pay anything. You can just access them for free with all the wonderful categories. And so we really encourage you, if you're considering sharing some tips in your classroom, really taking time to learn the app, either through your phone or a tablet, or just going to vroom.org. There's so much to explore within the app and really seeing how it can be useful for your classroom. So to start getting tips, you'll have to add a child's name into your app. You can make up a child's name. You can pick a child's name in your classroom. You could also add several children from your classroom in the app. The tips will come based on their age, because you'll put a birth date in there as well. So we would suggest, if you have a classroom of 2-year-olds, you can just put one name in there and then get age-appropriate tips for all 2-year-olds for your classroom. But if you would like to, you can put your children in there individually as well. So after you put in the child and your birth date, you can start exploring different categories to get access to different tips. So you can choose, this is an example of the app right here through your phone. You can choose to get tips delivered to you every day at a certain time. Or you can also go through the app and select what tips you would like, and you can actually save them as a favorite and access them when you're ready. So that's what's really great about Vroom. Not only can you get a little ding and get a reminder for a tip every day, you can actually turn that reminder off and just go in the app on your own time and find a tip that's appropriate for your classroom. And again, we mentioned that the Vroom app can be accessed on vroom.org, which is a new feature, which is really great. So if you have a computer in your program, might not be in your classroom, but you'll be able to access the app that way, and also download those free tips that Candy mentioned. And it's also great to share with parents as well. If they don't have a smartphone, they can go and access vroom.org and use the app maybe on a computer or at the library. So if you do access the app through the computer, this just shows you what it looks like. So when you come in, you can try out the activities, or you can create your account where you'll add the child with their birth month and year. And it's important to add the birth month and year because the tips will progress as the child gets older. And then this shows how a tip looks in the app, and then on the right, it's a little blurry, but you can see that there are those categories. So you can kind of click through and look at several tips based on the tip that it provided and the age of the child that you're in. You can also add multiple children of different ages as well. And then here you see again the tip on the left side. At the bottom, it has journal where you can write down your experience with the tip in your classroom, and again, favorite if you would like to save that tip and do it later. And on the right side here, this shows you as you complete tips, you can get badges and celebrate. So again, this is fun to show the kids if you would like to in your class, or tell the parents that they can do this with their children at home. And as they complete tips, they'll earn badges and celebrate that way. So these are some of the Vroom app categories. These are fun with chores, everyday routines, little scientists, let's focus, little detective, practice patience. And this is a handout that we shared with you all. We also have Let's Get Dressed, Anytime Adventures, Out and About, Eat Up, Stretch, Wordplay. Again, as you notice, these are everyday things that we're doing with children. So it's great to be able to go in your app and just get a tip that's appropriate for you at that time. We also have Memory Master, Let's Play, Chat, Be Kind, Bedtime Activities, Look, Get Creative, Follow, Take Turns. So a lot of times we get questions about the app. Some people are hesitant to download it. So we just wanted to go over a few common questions that come up about the Vroom app. So again, is there a charge for the app? No, the app is free. You can download it if you have a smartphone. If you don't have a smartphone, you can still access the tips through the website, through a tablet, or via text. So is this Vroom app for adults or for children? The Vroom app is for the adult to find an engaging activity to do with a child. So this is not about a child going through the app and looking and finding an activity. The adult will find the engagement activity to do with the child, and they can read it together with the child. And then after you complete it, you can show the child how you're earning rewards towards your badges in the app. So that's really fun to show them. Is there a Spanish version of the Vroom app? So if your phone is set up in Spanish, you'll be able to download the Vroom app and see everything in Spanish. So this is also great to share in the classroom and with parents who speak Spanish. And can I add more than one child in the Vroom app? As I mentioned earlier, you can add as many children as you want. And you just put their name and their birth date, and then that's how you're able to get tips for them through the app. So we do recommend, if you're using it for the classroom, you can just add one child and share those tips with everyone in the class. Can I get reminders to check for tips in the Vroom app? Again, you can set a reminder. If you want a reminder at 10 o'clock every morning, a Vroom tip will come to you. And if not, you can turn your notifications off and go in the app as you please. Also, what's really exciting, if you do have one of the children's Echo Dots in the classroom, there is an Alexa skill for Vroom, and you can set it up just like you would with your phone and start receiving apps through Alexa. So now we're going to talk about enriching learning in the classroom through brain building tips. So here on the left, you'll see some daily routines that we have in the classroom, such as mealtime, bathroom, washing hands, dinner time, circle time, music, and art. And on the right here, you'll see a picture of how someone has paired an actual Vroom tip with a station in the classroom. So this tip is called Sponge Sensations, and it's placed above a play sink area with some sponges. So that's how you can get creative and embed Vroom in your classroom, and that's one way. And so as we mentioned, you can go on vroom.org and select specific tips that you want to place around your classroom or you want to do with the students in your classroom. Another example would be if you have a diaper changing station, and we have a handout for that as well as a part of this webinar. And an example would be the last tip on that page called Diaper Song, and it says, when you're changing your child's diaper, sing about what you're doing, watch them and copy the sounds they make so you can create a song together. Your song plus their sounds can become your own diaper song for changing time. And the brainy background says, when your child hears new sounds and sees you respond to the sounds they make, they can become focused and engaged. This enables them to learn new words and sounds that will help them learn to talk and read in the future. So this is a great tip. This is something we're already doing with children in the classroom, and you could place this tip near your diaper changing station if you have one in your classroom. So that's just another example of how Vroom is embedded into your daily routines, things that you're already doing, so it's not something extra to do. Also, if you look here at some of the routines, we have mealtime. You can go on the website under food and play and find some brain building tips for mealtime. Also, we have circle time listed. You might want to go on vroom.org and find some tips about listening to include in your circle time. Also, we have brain building tips related to the centers in your classroom. So maybe going under the website and finding skills about working with others. So there's so many ways, there's so many ideas you may have just based on all of the thousands of Vroom tips that are available. Here's some more examples of routines on the left side here. We have outdoors, nap time, story time, calendar, weather, cleanup. Again, this is what we're already doing with children. On this picture here, you will see a calendar, and above it is another Vroom tip. It's called Weather Report, and you can connect that tip again with your calendar to have a Vroom tip and engaging moment with children in your classroom. So again, embedding Vroom in your classroom is simple. It's not an extra thing to do, and it's really easily layered onto the existing classroom routines. So let's look at some of these routines that we have here. Outdoors, maybe we can go to the website and find tips about on the go. For story time, we can look under literacy and find some tips for the class. And maybe for cleanup time, we can find tips about working with others. So again, these are just some more examples of how you can easily embed Vroom tips in your daily routines in the classroom. So again, you can go to the website and print them. You can go through your phone to access them. And if you find one, you can save it as a favorite to share when you're ready. Also, if you have iPads in your classroom, which some of you all mentioned, all the teachers can just set up an account so that you all can get your tips through your iPads in your classroom. And some of the benefits of brain building in the classroom, again, it's free, so it doesn't cost anything. And the tips are embedded into those everyday routines that we already have. And it supports those positive relationships between the educator and the child. Again, here you see a picture, and it says you already have what it takes to be a brain builder. Also, some more benefits: it encourages back and forth interaction between the educator and the child. And it builds those life skills that Candy talked about that promote executive function for the children. And it validates the big impact educators have on the growing brains of children 0 through 5. And it improves school to home communication. So connecting families to the classroom is very important. And some of the key components of family engagement include communication and really reaching the parents where they are. Is technology a great way to reach parents, or is it easy to share material with parents when they come in to your facilities? So some common ways that we know of to reach parents are through parent meetings, newsletters, handouts, maybe a display table, social media, maybe your website, maybe some YouTube videos, and Vroom does have some YouTube videos that are very short and show the tips in action. And also what's really popular now is family engagement software. So these are some ways that people are already communicating with parents, and you could definitely add Vroom into these resources. And the family needs and feedback inform the program, which is very important. So maybe having some surveys to see what the family needs are and how to improve your program based on their needs. Also, collaborative activities, having some family events, maybe parent-child socializations, parent information meetings, maybe a game night where the parents come, or a literacy night. And these are all great ways to connect with families, and Vroom can be embedded into all of those different examples. And also, what's important to family engagement is community resources and family support. So having those community organizations that you can connect your families to support their needs. So connecting to families in the classroom, here are a few ideas. So we talked a lot about the Vroom tips. So you could send home a brain building tip that you did in the classroom and share it with your family. And you can also ask the parents in your classroom to select some brain building tips for your classroom to really keep the parents engaged. Also, you might want to invite parents to submit culturally appropriate brain building tips for the classroom, and also encourage them to submit them to Vroom. Vroom loves to select tips that are straight from parents, so there are some tips that are appropriate to their home life. Definitely encourage them to share it with Vroom and also share it with you. And another example would be maybe giving parents a certificate or an award for completing a series of tips with their children. And that's really a great way to validate your parents and those positive interactions and engagements they're having with their children. So there's plenty of ways. These are just a few examples of ways to get started with sharing Vroom with families. So as you say, everyone has what it takes to be a brain builder. So in summary, we want to talk about what Vroom is not. Vroom is not prescriptive. It's not about telling you what to do. It's really about meeting you where you are. And Vroom is definitely not boring. All Vroom messages contain the informal and somewhat playful voice of Vroom. Vroom moments should be the best part of your day. And you and your child should experience Vroom tips as play. It's not academic. Science is the core of Vroom content, but you don't need to know anything about neuroscience to understand it. And Vroom avoids jargon and speaks in the terms that anyone can connect to on a personal level. And Vroom is not forgettable. And by keeping the messages short and relevant, Vroom makes it easy for parents and educators to share Vroom tips with anyone through a regular conversation. And Vroom is not just an app. So beyond the Vroom app, Vroom is a broad-based community initiative, and the goal is to inspire a culture change for brain building. And the Vroom app is one of the many tools used to initiate that positive engagement between caregivers and children. So now we've shared a lot about the Vroom tips and brain building, so we want to take time to reflect. So first, we want you just to, if you have paper near you, or if you can think of 3 ideas for integrating brain building in daily routines that occur in your classroom. These are just your initial thoughts and ideas. Just take the time to think about 3 ways, ideas for integrating brain building in daily routines that occur in your classroom. Once you start to think of those 3 things, if you don't mind, please share 1 or 2 in our chat box so we can help each other out. All right, and we also want you to think of 2 ideas for connecting families to your classroom through brain building. Think of 2 ideas for connecting families to your classroom through brain building. All right. And now we want you to list 1 statement about the importance of brain building that you plan to share with your administrator or your director in your program. All right. Does anyone have any new ideas they would like to share? Also, at this time, please feel free to ask any questions that you may have about what was shared today. All right, if you have any questions later, please email us at vroom@usa.childcareaware.org. vroom.org, and we'll be happy to answer them for you. We want to thank you for joining our webinar, and please visit vroom.org to learn more and start using Vroom in your classroom. Thank you, everyone.